Hello and welcome to another episode of Magnificent Monsters, the series where I review media that offers something special if you venture into the unknown and seize it. Today's installment concerns Soichi Masuo's Crimson Wolf, or Hon Ran, the 1993 conspiracy/martial arts/action/sci-fi/fantasy OVA adaptation of a manga by Kenji Okamura. While Hon Ran might initially seem like nothing more than your standard heroes punching evil in the face to save the world story, Hon Ran actually offers a surprising plot that predicts many modern problems of society, focusing on capitalism and control of the masses by the elite. Is this largely unrecognized anime an anarchist work? Could it teach us how to save the world? Watch on and find out. Hon Ran's plot begins in Mongolia, with explorers uncovering the mythical gravesite of Genghis Khan, something which remains undiscovered in the real world. The dank and dark gravesite presents an impressive but foreboding atmosphere. The path to its center is flanked by a battle-ready army of mummified corpses, a ghoulish version of the terracotta soldier army that was found at the real gravesite of Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor of China. Once they pass this fearsome symbol of power, our explorers are confronted with the body of old ruthless, toothless himself, Genghis Khan. Somehow sensing the intrusion, Genghis's blow-up doll manages to shoot off 3 arrows that rocket out of the tomb and into the heavens, which causes the sky to blacken and warp into a mysterious aurora. A voice then emits from the heavens and announces that the world will tremble and fall into chaos in just 1,000 days, unless 3 children with the scars of arrows appear to stop the 3 great emperors. With the danger understood, our plot then jumps across Asia, settling in Beijing, China, where a martial arts student named Shen witnesses the death of his powerful master at the hands of strange assassins. Shocked and confused, Shin is then thrown into jail by the Chinese government, where he's assaulted by a series of wicked murderers. Fighting for his life and dragging whatever answers he can from those he defeats, Shin learns about the Crimson Wolf, or Hon Ran, and the 3 great emperors. He is then approached by a powerful criminal outcast of society, Ryuko. With the help of stolen computer files and Ryuko's knowledge of the underworld, our hero learns that the men who killed his master and now seek to kill him are part of a secret cult. This cult is led by the same group that was mentioned in the prophecy, the 3 great emperors. They are said to be mysterious masters of society that no longer fear death because of something called Goku, or enlightenment in the void. If our hero wants justice, he's going to have to fight his way to the very top of the elite of China and confront the 3 emperors and Goku. There's much more to the story than this, but I leave it unsaid so you can see for yourself. Hon Ran delivers an interesting plot with an appealing visual style and good animation quality. Viewers are treated to vibrant vistas that sum up the urban landscapes of late 80s and early 90s East Asia perfectly. Characters have distinct looks that evoke the style of the 90s, with symbols of Chinese mysticism, Chinese theater, and American skate culture thrown in. The villains range from your standard goons to assassins to the strange and mysterious. There's a varied amount of action, with fighting scenes that are plentiful, fast, brutal, and more, but I don't want to spoil anything. Think of this as something like a toned-down Riki-Oh meets Rumble in the Bronx, with a touch of Fist of the North Star thrown in. Hon Ran also features a particularly good soundtrack by Hiroshi Ogasawara, which has tracks that use a 90s smooth jazz, R&B, house type of sound. These particular tracks are very reminiscent of Yuzo Koshiro's excellent house-inspired soundtrack for the games Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. So much so, it's hard not to imagine that you're watching a Streets of Rage anime with all the urban fighting being backed by the jazzy house tracks. I wish Hon Ran's soundtrack was available to listen to, but after doing research, I believe it was never released. So, altogether, Hon Ran delivers what I would call a solid package. Given it's only 1 hour long, the price of admission to check this OVA out is arguably not too high. However, while it's solidly made and fairly fun to watch, the real reason I dig this anime is only apparent after you've seen it. I want to go more into what I like about it and talk about why it's an important piece of work, and despite all of its basic elements. To do so, I'll have to spoil the ending. You may want to wait to watch the rest of this video till after Hon Ran's credits have rolled. Alright, here we go. Spoilers ahead. The ending of Hon Ran has our heroes confronting the evil Goku, which turns out to be a computer brain that controls China's economy. Now, believe it or not, something like this actually happened in reality. Chile's Project Cybersyn from 1971 to 73 was a master computer that was being used to help run the country's economy. Goku, however, isn't just crunching numbers and dictating where corn is grown. He runs the entire economy and happens to be powered by the spirits of the three great emperors we heard about before. These are three arguably cruel conquerors from Chinese history. There's Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor of China, a legendary lunatic who had a mercury addiction that addled his mind. Qin is famous for starting the construction of the Great Wall of China and for starting the tradition of murdering intellectuals that oppose those who are in control of China. Next we have Genghis Khan, another luminary in the world of genocide who you surely already know. And Mao Zedong, another genius that ended up causing untold millions to starve to death with his master plans of economic control. These three titans of enslavement and terror live inside the computer by spirit or by simulation, and they're going to come back in a big way with the computer brain by continuing their ambitions to rule the world. If our heroes, the resurrected spirits of those who tried to stop these three conquerors in the past, cannot stop Goku now, it will nuke China, causing a massive upheaval that will eventually lead to the population of Asia invading the more habitable Europe and starting an apocalyptic struggle for domination. In the end, the three conquerors will get their wishes of control for control's sake, a world where their whims decide the fate of everyone, even if the common folk all have to die. Our heroes engage Goku in an ethereal battleground, vanquishing the armies of the dead and facing the dragons of fate, monsters that represent and embody the spirits of the three great emperors themselves. Eventually, our three Hon Ran are successful, and the computer gets blown up real good. With the prophecy stopped and no dictator god spirits to run things, the people of China are free from the chains of the government. A new day begins, one that our heroes caution is not an ending, but a beginning of a new, free world run by the people, for the people. Now, this is a particularly interesting and socially conscious idea to have in an anime about slicing eyeballs and punching people to death, but it's definitely here. Freeing the people by tearing down society is not a new concept in storytelling. It's appeared in works such as the extremely popular Fight Club. However, I wanted to point out Hon Ran predates Fight Club by about 6 years, and that gives it some subversive street cred. It's pretty cool, and that alone makes Hon Ran special and worth notice. To appreciate how socially conscious Hon Ran is requires an understanding of the history happening around the writing of the original manga, and particularly the recent history of the current Chinese government. In the late 80s, right around when Hon Ran was written, the Tiananmen Square protest happened, involving 1 million protesters, mostly young people or students. The demonstrations sought an end to corruption in the government, an increase in democratic representation, and free speech for the people. The protests resulted in a massive upheaval of the social order in China. The government attempted to stop these protests with force and military violence. This use of force was most famously represented in images of the Tank Man, where a single protester can be seen standing in the way of a line of tanks. This is a powerful image conveying how the people can fight back against oppression, even a single person. While the Chinese military stopped the protests by killing 10,000 civilians, the Chinese government only truly regained its order by changing how it controlled the masses. Now, while the government claimed to be communist on the surface, it began offering the people of China capitalist treats like private wealth and seemingly free markets. These relaxations were done in exchange for continued obedience to the government, ultimately done in aims to stabilize the country, but really they only accelerated the problems China had. China now grew into the mutant tiger it is today. Not really communist, not really socialist, but a strange and crazed capitalist beast, one that stalks an economic jungle and is just as damaging as those found in the United States and elsewhere. China's rural poor now flock to the overfilled cities in pursuit of endless underpaid construction jobs, things done to power the hollow investments of a new elite. It suffers from unrestrained pollution as businesses flourish with little regulation. The ideas and technological innovations of the people, things that could benefit and connect them in harmony, are instead used to create systems of mind and body control. One of these systems is called the social credit system. This system is something where the government watches what you do, and they give you points or take away points based on how they judge what you've done. Essentially, they control everything you do, and if they don't approve of you, you get to do less things in life. You can't buy plane tickets, you have less money, you can't hang out with certain people. It's pretty grim. Interestingly enough, this social credit system will likely create a class of gray to black areas of law and economy, where many will be forced to survive as outcasts. This is just like how Ryuko of Hon Ran was an outcast. From the chaos of the 80s to today, China now exists as a capitalist hellscape, where money is power and technology exists to control the fate of the people. This technological nightmare world is eerily similar to the world of Hon Ran, where a computer-mining capitalist cabals have enslaved the populations of the world. And that, folks, is what makes Hon Ran so special. I mean, it's a damn cartoon, but it predicted what was going to happen in China. And it's gone even further than that by offering us, the viewer, a blueprint for saving the world. How it is that this story got it all so right back then perhaps isn't as important as considering the potential solutions that Hon Ran offers. Hon Ran proposes that the people of China can be free of their plight if they refuse a life within the boundaries of what the government allows them to have and do. It calls for the meek to refuse control by any group calling itself the masters of creation. One particularly engaging scene at the end of Hon Ran has the characters struggling to strike down one of the three great emperors, Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong has a cult of personality in China, and they're taught that these people are gods, and that they can do no wrong. So how could they be evil? However, the characters persist, ignoring the illusion of right and wrong that they've been molded with, and they strike down the mythical constructs of their upbringing anyway. Yes, they slay the dragons both physically and metaphorically. The ideas shown are an anime version of regular people violently revolting and establishing a life where people can live on their own terms. It doesn't matter if it's a capitalist system, a communist system, a crazed computer mind, dragons, or the spirits of conquerors and dictators. Nothing should control humanity. No gods, no masters. This is a highly anarchist concept, what I believe to be a sound solution for our problems as enslaved humans. I was very impressed that Hon Ran had such a revolutionary idea, hidden amongst all the super violence, house music, and anime titties. So, how feasible would a solution like shutting down the physical and governmental systems that harbor our evils be? I'm not too sure, and neither is Hon Ran, but I do find the idea appealing. It reminds me of one of my favorite things, actually, the original Deus Ex PC game, which is an absolute cyberpunk conspiracy masterpiece. Now, spoilers, I'm going to spoil the ending of the game. Anyway, at the ending of the game, the player speaks to an electronic god that has total control of all of Earth's data and electronic systems. The entity offers the player with 3 choices that will drastically affect the future of humanity. One of the choices is to hit the big red reset button, disabling presumably all technology and sending humanity back to a level of function that's something like medieval times. This happens to be my favorite choice of the 3 offered, as it implies to me that humanity will have time to focus and reassess for its sins. This idea of resetting society overnight is also reflected in the ending of Hon Ran, where the giant computer that runs society is destroyed, the spirits of the conquerors are banished, and life must begin to once again be about survival, not the pursuit of fleeting profits for a few by enslaving the many. So, given that this was the solution at the end of Hon Ran, I just dug the ending a ton. You know, I was enjoying it before the climax, but it left a real punch mark on my brain by the time the credits rolled, just like the delayed death touches in the movie itself. While a total reset would lead to a brutal culling of life, it would also ensure life could continue on some scale, something that would not be possible if we cooked the entire planet out of habitable ranges for most biological life. For humanity in particular, a total reset would ensure that honesty returns to the forefront of life. People would have to be serious about their affairs, now that the illusions of fame, credit, and social media would all be gone. The stakes would be higher, but the results would be realer too. People would have to focus on what was going on in their immediate world, spend time with their families and communities in ways that are increasingly lost, and hopefully create a new society that is better than the one that came before, the one that we are now slaves to. That's a world worth having, in my opinion. So Hon Ran remains relatively unknown today, and most any mentions that you see of it on the internet are sadly either a skimming glance or a remark of hatred and disdain-filled dismissal. However, I can see few flaws with the anime. The animation is of a good quality, the music is toe-tapping and energetic, and the fighting and action are decent. There's a great use of mystical, colorful, and fun imagery, and the characters are interesting. While all these things would make Hon Ran worth a first look, the real shining point here is the plot, which has a lightning pace and, of course, is prophetic and powerful. I believe that Hon Ran's awareness of class struggle and the portrayal of what's killing humanity and its place on the planet today allows it to transcend the usual places anime goes. It's a fun escape into the what-if of fighting for what really matters, rather than suffering in silence for what some alien mind told you might be important. Check it out. This is Toy reminding you that life sucks, but your movies don't have to.
these things are designed to frighten a monkey.